All right. Hi, my name's Avery Corp. And you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Gabby Carlson.
And I'm Hunter Asme.
So, for our honors project, we were faced with the task of creating something beneficial for the community and addressing a problem that we found prevalent. And we decided to focus on drug addiction and drug use, not so much throughout the entire community, but specifically at Stetson, because we felt we could make the biggest impact here. And we also felt we could relate to students and really make a change. So, the title of our presentation was Preventing Drug Addiction and Promoting Safe Drug Use at Stetson University. A big focus of our project was not to be completely anti-drug, because there's already a lot of programs out there that go about like addressing the issue in that sort of way, and it doesn't seem to work. We know drug use is going to happen, and although it's something that probably shouldn't happen a lot, we at least want kids to be safe, and prevent addiction and also overdoses and deaths and other issues when they are being used. So, to start the project, we did a needs assessment, and this is how we figured out that drug use was a problem in Volusia County, DeLand, and then Stetson. Um, there was a lot of information out there, but one of the main things we found was that the pandemic caused a lot more drug use, specifically opioid overdoses, um, and heroin, fentanyl, and like I said, opioid abuse all increased as a result of quarantine and life sort of going on hold. COVID was obviously a really tough time for everyone, and we're still facing the effects. And that had a huge impact on people and ended up resulting in a lot of more drug use. We also talked to Stetson Health and Wellness to take it further from the problem being present in Volusia County to more so a problem at Stetson. We found that over 71% of students drink, 40% use cannabis, 1.3% use heroin, 5.8% use cocaine, and 1% use methamphetamines. And not every student was surveyed. I believe it was only a quarter of students. So you can only imagine how these numbers play out when they're applied to the student population as a whole. Um, so kids at Stetson definitely aren't using drugs, especially harder drugs, at the same rate as those in the rest of Volusia County, but they're still using a lot more than we expected. And those percentages presented us with a clear need for something to address using drugs safely and preventing addiction. So our proposal, we decided that the best way to go about getting the word out about safe drug use would be a cultural credit event. We went with this because, first of all, students to graduate here obviously need cultural credits. So they were getting something out of going, and it was sort of something to like entice them to attend. The goal was to help students learn safe drug use, how to prevent addiction, and to give them resources if they needed it. We actually had a speaker from the school that students could reach out to if needed. And overall, we thought that it would just be a really like safe place for students, as it was online. They could just have their cameras off and be sort of anonymous. And then our partners were Stetson Health and Wellness. The sensei, he's the one that spoke and gave students resources if they do need help. And then the registrar and Stetson cultural credits.
All right. So I'm going to talk a bit about the time or the proposal and our timeline. So when making this project, we did face some different barriers as some of our team members weren't communicating. Originally, we were a 5-member team, and now we're down to 3. So communication was a bit of an issue getting this project done. And with that came trying to figure out exactly what we were going to do. We had our idea. We knew our problem and that we wanted to address drug use and addiction, but we weren't sure how to go about it, especially considering when we started, it was with some people who weren't on campus and weren't even in Florida. So we narrowed it down to specifically Stetson, which helped a lot to get the ideas rolling. So by March 26th, we were able to secure a speaker and make our surveys for our presentation. We decided what we were going to do, what we were going to talk about, what topics we wanted to touch on, and then we discussed with Sensei Morris Sullivan from the religious and spiritual community at Stetson about what he could talk about, and he talked a bit about Smart Recovery, which is Stetson or the interfaith group that talks about recovery. By April 3rd, we secured our cultural credit time slot, which is important, so we could advertise our event as a cultural credit and get more students to come. And then by April 8th, we were able to host our event, which went very well. We had around 20 students come, and everyone seemed to be really engaged, seemed to get a lot out of our presentation, which was awesome. So our team roles, Gabby was in charge of creating the survey, creating this final PowerPoint, securing the licensed Zoom, and speaking at the event. We also took turns speaking, but she was part of that. My role was to find the speaker, create the PowerPoint for the cultural credit event, and then speak. And then Avery's roles were to fill out the cultural credit form and speak at the event. So we all had a major part in this project. I think it was very equally balanced. All right. And so after looking at our project, reflecting on it, we want to talk a bit about what we can do in the future to keep this project rolling. We don't want this to be a one and done kind of thing. The Stetson Health and Wellness team did take a liking to our project, and we are in the works of discussing having this annually, or I think it was annually. It might have been biannually, I'm not sure, but I think annually was kind of where we decided. So we'll be working to put on an event like this through health and wellness and counseling to teach students about drug use, because I think it's, we agreed it's really important, and this is information that Stetson does offer, but a lot of the times students don't take the initiative to seek it out. So it was really important to us that we offer this information in a way that students will have a clear understanding of what their sources are or resources. We learned throughout this project how to educate about drug use and abuse. I think all of us going into it were kind of not super knowledgeable, but you have the extent of knowledge that you would as a student. But after doing research and putting together this presentation, I feel like we're all very well versed in ways to take care of yourself and others in the event of drug overdose, in the event of drug abuse, the sources available to us as students, and just in general, how to be safe. We also learned how to create a cultural credit event, which I think will come in handy a lot in the future, especially with continuing this project. And we also learned a lot about time management, because as a group that kind of dwindled down in the end, we had to kind of work quickly to get our project together. We didn't have as much time as we expected. So time management was a really big thing for us, but it came out great.
Okay, so next we're going to be talking about the results. So these specifically are the results from our survey. These are just like the graphs from the different questions we asked. So the first thing was if people felt like they learned something from the presentation, and every single person said yes. And then the next graph is before this presentation, would you have known what to do if someone around you overdosed? And the majority, 65.6%, said no, they wouldn't. And then afterwards, the graph right next to it, 100% of people said that they did know how. And it's not on this page, but a lot of the comments under like the questions, comments on the end of the survey, a lot of them were saying like they actually really learned something, and they were really happy that they came because now they know what to do if something were to happen. Up in the top right corner, the first graph is asking what they would rate their knowledge on safe drug use before the presentation. And the majority of people said like 3, like 5 being the most and 1 being the least, so right in the middle. And then at the end, one person or 2 people said 1, but they put in the comments they didn't know if 1 was the worst or best, so they actually meant to put it at the end. And then the majority of people said that it was either 4 or 5 afterwards. So we thought that this was pretty significant difference, even if it was only a small group of people and what they learned. Thank you all for listening.